before there were maps that covered every ocean, before lighthouses lined every dangerous coast, before any instrument existed that could read the rage of a coming storm, sailors knew one truth above all others. The sea does not forgive, it does not negotiate, and it does not forget. Every captain who has ever lived has understood this. Every captain, except one. His name was Hendrick Van der Decken, a captain of the Dutch East India Company, the VOC, the most powerful maritime trading empire the world had ever seen. He had crossed the Atlantic. He had rounded the most dangerous capes on Earth. He had survived storms that swallowed lesser men whole, and in surviving them, he had made the one mistake the sea never forgives. He had begun to believe he was stronger than it. The VOC admirals who had sailed before him knew better. They had written in their logs of the Cape of Good Hope, they called it, though the name was a prayer, not a description. They had recorded its storms in language that had no precedent. One admiral wrote simply, "The sea here is alive with malice." Van der Decken had read those logs. He had dismissed them as the fear of lesser men. In the year of his final voyage, Van der Decken commanded the Flying Dutchman, a VOC merchant vessel of exceptional size and power. His crew numbered 40 men, hand-selected. His cargo was bound for Amsterdam. All he had to do was round the Cape. He had done it before. He would do it again. The storm that was waiting for him at the Cape had other intentions. The storm came without warning in the final sense. Which is to say, there were warnings, but Van der Decken refused them all. His first mate, Jacobs, fell to his knees on the deck and begged the captain to turn back. The crew, 40 men who had trusted him across 10,000 miles, screamed at him to come about. Van der Decken walked to the bow of his ship, looked directly into the oncoming wall of black cloud, and he laughed. Then he swore his oath. The words of the oath are recorded differently in every account, but the meaning is always the same. He swore that he would round this cape, that no storm, no act of God, no power in heaven or in the deep would stop him, that he would sail this passage if it took him until the last day of the world. He raised his fist to the storm sky, and he called out his defiance into the void. And the void answered. The storm did not destroy them. That would have been mercy. The storm parted, the ship sailed through, and on the other side, there was no Amsterdam, there was no Cape, there was no world that Van der Decken had ever known. There was only sea, endless, boundless, horizonless sea, and the Flying Dutchman sailing it. Forever. The first sightings came within a generation. Sailors rounding the Cape began returning to port with accounts that shared every detail. A great Dutch vessel, sails full in windless air, hull glowing with a light that cast no shadows, crew visible on deck, moving in silent, eternal labor. No response to hails, no distress signal, no living eyes meeting theirs. Just the ship, just the men, still sailing, still working, as if the voyage had simply never ended. Other ships followed. In the generations after, sailor returned to port with the same account, a vessel materializing from fog or storm, sails impossibly full, no distress signals, no response to hails, no living eyes meeting theirs across the water. Just the ship, sailing, always sailing, never arriving. Among those who saw it and recorded what they saw, one account stands apart from all others. In July of 1881, the HMS Bacante was rounding the Cape when the officer on watch reported a strange vessel approaching in the pre-dawn darkness. It glowed red. It was moving against the wind. 13 men witnessed it. The midshipman who first spotted it and reported it to his superior fell from the rigging before the next watch and was killed instantly. One of the officers who witnessed the sighting that night was a young prince, the future King George V of Britain. He wrote of it in his personal log with complete seriousness. No dramatic flourish, no attempt at explanation. Simply, the Flying Dutchman crossed our bow. The man who first saw it is now dead. That is all. A future king witnessed the impossible. A man died for seeing it first, and the ship sailed on. What is the nature of what Van der Decken became? The myth is precise on this point in every version. He is not dead. He cannot die. Death would release him, and the curse will not permit release. He is not alive in any sense the living would recognize. He exists in a state that has no name in any human language, suspended between the oath he swore and the destination he will never reach. Sailing, always sailing, never arriving. His crew share the curse without having sworn it. 40 men, including Jacobsis, who begged him to turn back, condemned to sail forever for a decision they had no part in making. They work the ship because working the ship is all they have ever known. They trim the sails in storms that will never destroy them. They watch horizons that will never change. They do not speak of what they are. Perhaps they no longer know. Richard Wagner understood this. When he wrote Der fliegende Holländer in 1843, he did not write it as a ghost story. He wrote it as a tragedy of the soul, a meditation on what it means to be condemned not to death, but to existence without meaning. Wagner's Dutchman is a man who has forgotten why he wanted to arrive. He only remembers that he must keep sailing. The destination has ceased to matter. Only the curse remains. Every version of the myth contains a release condition, a door left deliberately ajar in the curse. Van der Decken is permitted to go ashore once every 7 years to seek a woman whose love is strong enough to break the oath, a love given freely, completely, without knowledge of what she is choosing. The myth is precise about why this condition exists, because it is nearly impossible to meet. The curse was not designed to be broken. It was designed to offer hope, and then deny it. The VOC, the empire Van der Decken sailed for, collapsed within a century of his oath. Its admirals are forgotten. Its trading routes are history. Its flags no longer fly on any sea, but the Flying Dutchman sails on. The institution that sent him out perished. The man who swore the oath did not. There is something in this that the myth insists upon, that certain acts transcend the structures that produced them, that some oaths outlive their context entirely. Sailors continued to cite it for as long as sailing ships crossed open ocean. The accounts accumulate across 3 centuries, from Dutch merchant logs to British naval records to South African coastal reports. each one different in detail, each one identical in essence. The ship that cannot stop, the crew that cannot rest, the captain that cannot arrive. The same story, told again and again by men who had never read each other's accounts, as if the sea itself kept insisting that it happened. Wagner finished his opera. The curtain fell. The audience applauded. The Dutchman sailed on. Prince George became king, ruled an empire, died in his bed. The Dutchman sailed on. The VOC admirals who warned of the Cape were buried and forgotten. The Dutchman sailed on. Every human structure that touched this legend, every institution, every witness, every artist who tried to contain it in words or music or paint, has ended. The Dutchman has not. The curse that Hendrick Van der Decken swore into a storm over the Cape of Good Hope was not a death sentence. It was something the human mind finds far more difficult to process than death. It was continuation, endless, purposeless, unstoppable continuation. He wanted to keep sailing. The sea granted his wish with the precision of something that understood exactly what he was asking for and gave it to him completely and forever. He sails still, somewhere beyond the edge of the charts, somewhere in the fog at the bottom of the world. He sails still.